Thank you for joining me, Mukesh Kapila, on Fading Causes. I have a very special guest today, someone I have learned to admire greatly in the past few months since I came to hear of her work. To say that she's courageous, perhaps even fearless, would be an understatement. Her passion has taken her to the world's most horrendous trouble spots to witness the worst that we do to each other. And yet, she manages to capture such horrors with a compassion and humanity that obliges you not to look away. With her blistering lens on the world, she's an award winning photographer and filmmaker. A very warm welcome to you, Ximena Borrazás.
Thank you so much, Mukesh, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to join your podcast.
Now, Ximena, you were born in Uruguay, but you live in Spain. So, what's your backstory? How you got compelled to get behind the camera?
Well, it's a very good question. As you said before, I born in Uruguay, South America. So I studied 2 careers in my country, not related with photography at all. One is marketing and the other one is public relations. So I spent most part of my life working on the marketing field. And then on 2018, I made a huge travel for 4 months and a half around the world, mostly through Asia. So I realized that actually I didn't like my life and I was not happy with anything. So I decided to change my career. And first I made a short course on photography in Uruguay. The name of the school is Casa Arbus. Arbus was a photographer. And then on 2019, I moved my base to Barcelona to continue studying photography. And that's it. My academic background, I made 2 master's degrees as well in cinema and international cooperation. And when in Ukraine, the full scale war started, I decided to travel first to the Polish border to cover the refugee crisis. And then I decided to enter. I already entered 6 times to Ukraine, and that's how everything started.
Now, I'm intrigued by what you said. You said that you were dissatisfied with your life, and then you seem to have gone to trouble. Wars, disasters, humanitarian crisis, Tigray, Lebanon, Syria, Ukraine, migration, and so on. Why are you drawn to physical and human destruction in its so many terrible forms? What's the connection between the places you find yourself drawn to?
It's a good question. I really don't know why I decided to enter in this world, but what I can say is when I was talking with Ukrainian refugees, because it was my first international project, the full scale war in Ukraine, I felt for the first time in my life that I was useful. I felt useful. I felt that I was doing something important. At that time, I had no contact with editors from international magazines, newspapers, or television. So what can I do? It was to publish on my social networks. And for me, it was enough to tend a bridge between my family, my friends, and my close circle to these Ukrainian refugees, to extend their stories to my circle. So that's why I decided to start working on this field. It's not easy work at all. But for some strange reason, when I am working covering wars or migration or human rights violations, I'm happy because I know and I feel that I'm doing something important for other people, not just for me.
Right. So whatever was disturbing you before, you are finding a way to work you through your own trauma, through the trauma of others. I mean, some would say that that's a little bit voyeuristic, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that unfair for me to say that?
Well, I don't think it's related because I have my own traumas and people who flee wars have their own. I am a migrant also because I am from Uruguay and I am based in Spain. But the difference between me and those who decide to risk their lives crossing the sea is that I'm a lucky migrant because I can choose the way that I travel, when I travel, how I travel, and why. And no one follow me and no one try to kill me. And I never risk my life when I travel from Uruguay to Spain or back to Uruguay because I am lucky enough to have the chance to pay for a plane ticket and to have two passports. So that's the difference. But at the end, I'm still being a migrant. So I want to be at their side.
So, as you migrate around the world as part of your career or your job, how do you decide what's worth photographing, and how do you curate the bits you allow the rest of us to see?
Well, I always choose topics that move my heart. I try to avoid to run back to breaking news because it's simple. I cannot fight with agencies because they are huge, and all the newspapers and the magazine and the TV channels in the world, they work with closely with agencies, and they pay a fee per month to get these photos. So it's not clever to try to compete with these monsters of information. But for me, because you realize the difference when you watch a picture or watch a film, you can see the difference if the photographer just follow the news because was another task or because he's really committed with this story. And in all the cases, in Ukraine, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Ethiopia, in Canary Islands, or on board 2 times of humanitarian rescue ships, I just choose the topics that I like and the topics that are important for me.
Can we go a bit further? Tell me, what's the difference between the world as we see with the naked eye and what you see, the same world, through a camera? How does the camera frame the reality of what we see? And do you worry about that you might be reframing what the real reality is, if I can put it like that?
Well, of course, when you decide to take a picture, you choose what to take the picture, you know, because when you are at this place, for example, in Tigray, in a refugee camp or in an IDP center, you have all the information. But when you are taking pictures, you have a frame and you need to decide what you want for others to see. So that's the difference. And it's a huge difference because sometimes we leave some information and sometimes we highlight some information. And what I can say is that's the difference. And why I choose to highlight some frames because I related with the topics that are important for me. In the case of Tigray, for example, sexual violence is my big project and my long-term project, rape as a weapon of war.
So when I'm actually seeing one of your striking images, I'm actually seeing the world through your eyes because
Yes.
you've chosen to show us that. I'm commenting because we live in times of great suspicion with so much selectivity, misinformation, and distrust. So it's fine to see the world through your eyes. But how do we make sure that the world you're showing us, however important and real it might be, isn't hiding some greater truths?
In my case, because I am freelancer, so I don't need to hide anything. I show the reality as I see the reality while I am working on the field. Of course, when you are a staff photographer of a newspaper or an agency, you must to follow the editorial timeline. The difference between us freelancers and staff photographers is this because no one is our boss. We are our own bosses. So this is one part. And yeah, I think it's the huge
Well,
difference.
Well, I mean, I admire your integrity, and at the same time, obviously, your photos have been taken up by many reputable channels: BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, Le Monde, AP, Guardian, and so on. That's a tribute to you. But tell me, how does the system work? Do you just hand over your shots and they decide what to use? Do you have any say on the commentary woven around your pictures? Do you worry about your pictures being misused or taken out of context?
Yes, of course. For example, in my case, I work in 2 different ways. I work with agencies like AP, like SOPA, like Getty, like many others. So when you upload your photos to their platforms, you are losing the control of your photos. And they use that different medias around the world want to give to them because it's on the platform and all the medias that have packages with them can use, even if it's the opposite that you want to talk. For example, I'll put you an example. I was last year in El Hierro, Canary Islands, covering the arrival of boats of migrants from Africa. So I upload my pictures to one platform, to an agency, and then I saw an article published by right media saying they are invading us. And of course, was not my intention.
Mhm.
So this is the difference when you work in an entire reportage that you sell the package, text, videos, and pictures, and its the edition will be what you want to do. But when you sell separate photos, it's another issue.
Mhm.
These are the two differences. And this happened to me not very often because I work mostly creating reportages under assignment or not, but I do both. I take photos and I write texts.
Now, one of the places you've documented is the Ethiopian region of Tigray, where there was a vicious civil war between 2020 and 2022, and is still a very troubled region. In fact, that's how I first came to hear of your work. Can we explore that in some detail? To start, why and how did you end up in Ethiopia?
Well, I decided to travel to Tigray because on 2023 February, I was on board on a humanitarian rescue ship called Aitamari. It's from Basque Country. And I was talking with the nurse. Her name is Marta, and she's involved in international cooperation since many years. She had a lot of experience. So I remember I told Marta, Marta, I want to go to Gaza. And Marta said to me, oh, you should go to Tigray. You will be much more helpful than in Gaza. So I thought, why she said that? And I start reading articles, very few articles, because few media talk about Tigray at that time and nowadays still. And I remember I saw a reportage published by Arte TV channel. And this reportage was recording during the war, and the main topic was displaced people and famine. And I realized I saw an image of a person dying because of famine, and I said, I cannot believe it. I need to go there. So because it's expensive and I am freelancer, it's expensive to travel from Spain to Ethiopia. I start pitching this to get an assignment, but very few medias reply, and they reply saying two things. One, we don't work with freelancers in Warzone, and the other thing is we think it's not relevant, this topic. I mean, a genocide is not relevant. So yeah, for my surprise. So I was super angry, I remember. And I spoke with my colleague Edgar. He's a photojournalist from Spain as well. And we said, anyway, we should go. So we managed to obtain the money from another side, and we traveled to Tigray with the first idea to cover the post-war situation, focus on famine and displaced people. But while we were working on the film documenting refugee camps, we realized that some ladies were following us with a kind of papers at their hands. And when our translator started reading these papers, he said, this is a proof that they face raping, gang rape. And they said to us, crying, I remember they said, please help to us. You are our hope because no one come here. So at that point, my focus changed and I started going deep and deep on sexual violence.
Right. Now, Ximena, I've been terribly moved by your images from Tigray. Now, I'm a physician by training, and to be honest, in my arrogance, I thought I had seen it all. I've seen broken bodies in all shapes and sizes, and I've been to so many wars over my lifetime. I've seen blood running down churches in Rwanda, and inside babies still clinging to the amputated breasts of their mothers. I hope I'm not putting off our listeners. I'm seeing I've seen hungry dogs consuming slaughtered corpses. I've seen Afghan women being stoned to death by the Taliban. I've seen mothers and her photocopy of a baby with identically amputated arms in Sierra Leone. And I've seen the beaten and burned victims of torture in East Timor and multiply raped women in, for example, Darfur or Congo. I could go on. And I really thought I had seen it all. But when I saw your photos of x rays showing screws and nail clippers inside the uterus and handwritten messages by rapist soldiers left inside the genitalia of Tigrayan women, words simply failed me. So, can you find some words to describe what you saw?
Yeah, me too, because I feel you what you are saying. I don't have your experience, of course, because you travel a lot and you are involved in very important things. But for me, it was a shock because I never saw this kind of acts. And I remember the first time when I found about these acts was during my second trip to Tigray in 2024. And the doctor, the head of either hospital, he told me about that. So I remember I watched, I saw my colleague's face, like, I cannot believe it. So we asked if it's possible to see the objects. And they said, of course, we have some of them here. So I remember Sister Mulu, at that time, the head of the One Stop Center, is a kind of house at the backyard of either hospital. There, they treat at least 8,000 survivors of sexual violence only in this place. They open a store, like a small storage they have inside this place, and they remove a box, and inside the box they have the nails, they have the letters, they have sand, they have stones. And they said, we removed this from two survivors. And then I remember I asked if they had the x-rays, and they said yes, we have, but they couldn't find, and we were at the end of our trip, so we just left. So this year, because thanks to the Tom Stoller grant, I had the chance to go back to Tigray on March this year. I went straight to the hospital to try to get these x-rays to have the full story. And I found the x-rays. And when I saw this, I said, like, I need to take a picture of this, because you don't need to add anything. You just watch the x-ray with this nail cutter inside the womb, the lady's womb, and you can imagine the rest, right?
Now, violent rape was a signature tune of this terribly brutal civil war in Tigray. How do you make sense of that? From speaking to the survivors and the doctors and others who were trying to do something about it, what did you learn about why women were extremely sexually brutalized there and in other conflicts that you've also been to? And perhaps sometimes men also?
Well, I am truly sure that this is intentional. This is part of the genocide, because what happened in Tigray is a genocide. Because to have a genocide, you need to have the intention of an ethnia or a nationality. And this is clear. And mostly through these notes, handwritten notes, that the soldiers, the Eritrean soldiers, use the vaginas of the ladies like a kind of box, mailbox, to put their intentions there. So that was my impression. And while I was talking with the survivors, I interviewed many survivors, more than 30, I can say. And I spoke with many health workers, and all of them are agreeing with this. This is a coordinated, systematic sexual violence, torture, in order to humiliate the men from Tigray, and also to end the ethnia.
Well, it's thanks to you and your brave colleagues, reporters and humanitarian workers, that no one can now say that we don't know what went on in Tigray. But what do we do with that knowledge? We can't go back in time, unfortunately. But what to do with the pain and suffering that continues to be endured by Tigrayans, which you have documented so graphically?
What I want to do, I don't want to be a photographer. I want to be more than this. I want justice for them. I want accountability. That's why I choose this more forensic approach, because if you have a testimony, you have two options: or believe or not. And sadly, you cannot prove if this is true or not. You just need to believe on this testimony. But if you have objects, if you have x-rays, how can you deny this? It's not possible. So that's why I observed that if I introduce this more forensic approach, this will be more than a photojournalist project. This will be proofs. Yeah, these are proofs, actually, are
Mhm,
proofs.
mhm.
And maybe, it's my dream, maybe a group of lawyers, or maybe the international court, can use this as a proof to recognize genocide in Tigray, and to give to them justice, and to provide accountability for the perpetrators.
Now, are you afraid that something might happen to you as you go about your work of documenting inhumanities? Because on the other side, there are people who would definitely not want their handicraft to be recorded.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I will go till the end, and I will not abandon them, because I'm a witness of this. So if I decide to close my mouth, who will be the person who could speak out loud for them? Probably another journalist, because I'm not the only one, but sadly We don't have enough journalists like Ukraine or another wars. We are very few. So if that we are very few, close our mouths, what will happen?
Now, shifting an angle, as a man and father of 3 girls, I feel terribly ashamed what men do to women in wars, and we've seen that in many wars. What about you? As a woman, what do you feel? Not think. I'm interested in your feelings, not your rational thoughts. When you come across abuses and atrocities of this nature at first hand.
I feel speechless, but not because of the acts committed mostly by men, because sadly this happened during all of our history. And if people who have the power to change this, they are not committed enough to change this will still happen in the future. But what I feel is a shame that some women, they don't fight enough to protect other women. So this is my feeling. Not shame about men, because I know this is not new, sadly. What I feel is I'm disappointed because of some women decide to just to turn off their backs.
Well, still on this gender theme, I know that I wasn't particularly good at looking after myself during a lifetime of witnessing such inhumanities. Perhaps it was my misguided male thing, type of macho stuff. And at that time, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, wasn't so much talked about. What about you? How do you care for your mental and emotional well being yourself? I hope you don't have bad habits like tobacco, alcohol, drugs, or other dysfunctional behavior. I hope.
Yeah, me too. I really hope. I'm quite new on this because I started when the full scale war in Ukraine started. So it's not a long time ago, but I really care about my mental health because I know that if I am not good with me, I cannot work properly. And much more related with this kind of issues. I need to be strong inside me and outside. So what I do, I cry a lot. I speak a lot with my friends and my family of these topics. I'm lucky because I have a great network around me with many people who cares about me. And I also go to therapy. So yeah, I use these methods.
Well, you have spontaneously highlighted the extremely important gender difference between men and women, and certainly between you and me. I think you're not afraid to talk about your experiences to those who are close to you, your friends, and so on. And you're not afraid to explore your feelings with the people you trust. Now, in the case of men, and to be honest, that includes myself from my past experience, we are very reluctant to talk about it. We're very reluctant to kind of say, hey, that hurt me. And I think that probably also explains the way trauma is transmitted down the line through generations, perhaps. But I very much hope that as the whole world gets to witness what's going on, thanks to people like you who are showing us what goes on, people will be more open about discussing these things. By the way, on thinking of your images, I'm really struck by the Rembrandt-like play of light and shadow that features in your work. For example, your stark images of homeless migrants in Barcelona or Ukrainians saying their last goodbyes to loved ones, they really struck me. So for the sake of any nerds, photography nerds who might be listening, what's your technical setup with cameras, lights, filters, sound, etc., when you are on mission in difficult spots?
Well, I have not too much experience because, as I told you, I'm quite new on this. But I really think that photography you improve when you work. As much as you work, as much as you will improve. A recommendation. Well, I think it's quite important to use the camera on manual mode because if you just use in automatic, you will never improve. You need to take care about everything, about the lights, about the composition. This is super important, and I can confess that at the beginning I never care about the composition, but now I'm super picky on composition because you can just watch the difference and also the meaning of the image change because the composition. I can say never shoot at midday, please don't do that because of the sun. I can say also that clouds are our best friend because the light is equal. So yeah, I think this.
Well, those are very helpful tips, and I think you're being quite modest when you say that you are not very experienced. Of course, carrying on learning is very important part to become like Rembrandt. Now, speaking for myself, I can barely point my smartphone and click. But nowadays, with that and social media, everybody has become a reporter. And it has created a new moral duty to report on everyone, on what's happening around you, wherever you are, to expose the truth when professional journalists can't do their job. For example, if they can't get into Gaza or to Afghanistan, Tibet, or so many other places. So any quick imaging tips for amateurs with their own smartphones and their simple cameras, not necessarily the equipment that you carry?
I think all the people can be great reporter, even if you don't have the best camera, because I think to be a great photographer or a journalist, actually, you don't need great equipment. It's about the point of view. It's about how you reach the heart of the people who are watching from the other side. Even if you have the best camera or the most expensive one, if you're not able to develop this, doesn't matter. So yeah, you can take a good picture with a phone. And I think the key is to have a different point of view and to really explore the lives or the feelings of those you are taking pictures. This is the key.
I think to have a different point of view, to see the point of view of the person in front of you, whether it's through your camera or you're just looking at them, that of course is the essence of humanitarianism. You may call yourself a photographer, but actually you're much more than that. Now, I know you're heading soon to Ukraine, where you will meet my good friend Matthias Schmale, who is the head of the UN in Ukraine. And I hope you will return at some time to talk about your experiences there. Meanwhile, as we finish, I'm remembering the theme of one of your exhibitions, No Me Olvides,
Yeah.
Don't Forget Me. Ximena Borrazás, thank you so much for being my unforgettable guest on Fading Causes.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you and to share this time with you.